HelaCast is a podcast, the podcast for energy. For energy, podcast for energy. HelaCast is a podcast, ain't gonna be fair, no hold back. Energy, planted by the rivers is a rule. HelaCast are gonna show you the way. Podcast for the people, we fly high with energy. Society and the remedy. HelaCast, community, reality, we stick it together as a nation. HelaCast, passion, podcast for fashion. We do it now with the real youth who knows the deal.
Welcome. This is This is Hela Podcast. We talking about energy. It's all about energy. Ain't gonna be fair because we talking about nuclear. Ain't gonna be fair because we talking about energy. What's up, guys? What's up? I got my people here. Rekofe, you know what I'm saying? So this is Hela Podcast. It's a platform. It's almost like your open source. You know what I mean? So we do it all. So, anyways, this is the first episode, and maybe as you know, you don't know us, of course. We've been around, but we new in the platform. So I go by the name Tabiso Bafit.
Hi, my name is Kenyo, aka the last one.
It's
guys, Mabura. No, just Buddha. DJ's Buddha.
More fire. Shout out to DJ's Buddha.
What's up, guys? I'm Tabo, aka is Tabo.
Away, guys. We thought the first episode, there's a lot to talk about really in the energy space. It's almost an unknown, one could say an unknown field, maybe, to the people. Particularly now we've got a lot of energy issues in the country. We've got load shedding and stuff like that. Different types of energy sources people talk about out there. And I think it's only fair that we bring all of this to the people and we put it in a layman terms if maybe that's the way to go by. The first, and we start from the beginning. You know, in the beginning, not the beginning, but in the beginning, there was an atom. You know, so this is a very an important component of nuclear, or the source. The alpha for nuclear. So it's important that we address and sort of dress it up, you know, to give it a picture of what it's about. So that's what we're gonna talk about today. And I'm just gonna put it to the floor, you know, just to tell us, what do you know about an atom? What's an atom? Penyo, tell us. Penyo is our our guru when it comes to the memory.
It's the resident atom.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's where the atom resides. All the info.
Okay, from my understanding, an atom is essentially the basic unit of an element.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So when we talk about an element, I suppose we're talking about the most basic thing. So I think one of the videos that we looked, or we can actually look up to, it tells you about what an atom is, right? So maybe do you mind just taking a video for us, just a random video about what an atom is? Like, it doesn't have to be like a 20-minute video. You know those clips, man.
Let's see if I can find it.
Yeah, not the Hubs clips, but proper clips.
Please don't make it a 20-minute thing.
Please, real quick.
Yeah, I'll be asleep by the time.
By the time, the atom will be like, yeah.
But it's the most basic thing. You should literally be like 3 seconds of it.
Yeah, in 3 seconds. What is an atom? So because we know, basically look up everything on Google. So we didn't want to, like give you a textbook definition.
Yeah.
We just want to go through a random video on the YouTube, or
I think the network is not networking.
there's no network.
It's not networking.
All right, no, that's fine. It's good. I will also look it up. But I think from the video we once watched, they spoke about an atom being something that is like you can break something, like a material. You can break it up you chop it up to a point where you get to the atomic level, and you can't break it further than that. So whatever that you have, and then you break it up, you can't break it further than what it is. That basic unit is essentially an atom.
Yeah.
So I think it's an interesting part that we kind of spoke about
Yeah.
at one point. So I don't know what's your take on that. If you break it further, does it become an atom or not?
Just to add on, essentially it said it's breaking something into its smallest, I guess, piece or size without compromising the characteristics of that element or that matter. If I could just say that. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
which is something very very key that you just said, a character. So apparently atoms have character.
Yes.
So different atoms, they exhibit different characters.
Yes.
They're like human beings. We got different characters. So atoms similarly, they exhibit different characters. So that in itself, if you break it further than that, you lose the character of an atom. So you can imagine an atom being Autiakasi and then doing his walk. Walk means, So if you so basically that's how an atom should be looked at. Just to make it more familiar, I suppose. Just maybe from school point of view, it might be and it might not be maybe, but you guys remember, the first time when, of course, we did science, all of us. So what's your first memory when you got to learn about an atom? What did they tell you? Like, how did they at school? What do you remember at school? They're like, just take us through. Just, hey man, yeah, I was in this class and then they were telling us, here's an atom or whatever. So
Yeah.
just take us through a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, no. I think the most vivid memory for me, it was a natural sciences class.
Yeah.
So that was at the lower grades. So it started getting into the real science, you can say.
Yeah.
So in terms of what an atom was explained, or what is an atom in actual fact, yeah, it's just the simplest definition that an atom is the simplest particle of an object, and as a broad definition.
Yeah.
So it's the simplest form of an object.
Sure.
And I think that is the important, because if you're saying it's the simplest form of an object, I mean, from what Penyo has just described, it's the most simplest part while you still preserve the characteristics.
Yeah.
So at its simplest form, it must still resemble the object,
Yeah.
or the particle or the element. Yeah. So as a broad definition, for me, how it was explained is just the simplest form of an object.
Sure.
And I remember the example was, they made the example with the desk, with the chair.
Yeah.
That's the desk is made up out of atoms.
Sure.
So the simplest form of the desk is a single atom. Yeah. So that's the most vivid memory for me. And you see, up until now, I still have something like that,
It's stuck with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at least you passed the
You know what I mean?
You always pass the test.
Because also it's about imagining,
Yeah.
because you can't see an atom. You can't see an atom. So I think an example like that, something that you can see,
Yeah.
then you can imagine chopping down a desk to its finest particle.
Yeah.
You see, then you say, okay, this is the single atom which constitutes this desk,
Yeah.
the chair. Yeah.
So you're talking about, and I think that's the important part, that we should always associate atoms or science associated with atoms is that it's simple.
Yeah.
So you're talking about the simplest form, and maybe we shouldn't lose sight of that. But atom is actually simple.
The simplicity.
Yeah, simplicity part of it. Because I don't know if maybe because there's this definition that we once, or maybe if I remember from school, we were told about matter, and then you described matter. Somehow matter was associated with, okay, atoms constitute matter. And then there's a definition for matter. I don't know if you remember the definition.
Yeah. So for me, I think the earliest memory of that definition was matter is anything really that has mass and can occupy space.
Sure.
And I struggled for a bit with that definition because remember you also have to overcome, the English barrier. As a way to understand the science, you need to understand the language that is being used as well. So I started thinking, so something that has mass. What is this mass? What are these guys talking about? So for me that's my earliest.
Because now I know masses in church.
Like
there's a mass. So we don't show which one.
And that's exactly my
The
point.
holy atom.
That's exactly my point, because now you have to. It's two things. You have to be comfortable with the concepts, the scientific concepts, as well as climb over the barriers of being comfortable in using the language to understand.
True.
It was an interesting one. But bringing it back to the atom itself, for me it was it was a very confusing moment in my life. Here I am in this class where you are asking me to imagine something that you as a teacher are admitting is invisible. And I must accept that as a scientific fact, or this thing actually exists. And what actually made me more curious about this concept, so if you stack these things up and you have enough of them, now you are able to see something. Now the matter thing that we're talking about. So it was very very confusing for me.
It's almost that you see me now, see me.
You
don't. You see me now, you don't.
So it was very confusing, but an interesting concept to try and explore nonetheless. I think it's one of the most basic ideas that made me fall in love with the science itself, just the understanding of things can start out that simplistically and become intricate systems at one point. So
complex as well.
Yeah, man, it brings back a lot of memories back in school. So,
I think one subject we'll touch at some point is the history of the discovery of an atom.
We should
from the guys who they came up with the idea of an atom.
Even the mistakes that were made, the models that were eventually to show that everything that's documented doesn't necessarily have to be success. Things work by trial and error, especially in the scientific world. And that's something that you need to accept earlier on as a budding scientist or whatever. So it would be an interesting one.
We should. Because for me also, the other issue or the other part of explaining an atom, especially from a society point of view, is and we're talking about from school when we were kids, and we used to watch a lot of cartoons at an early age. I remember Boba Spencer, I remember Rabu, like those. I don't know if you which ones you watched. Is it Ben 10 or what?
Ugly Duckling.
Oh, Ugly Duckling.
It's
good at Ben 10.
Definitely. That's right up your alley. Talking about superpowers and energy involved. That's exactly.
I'm not that young.
Oh, you're not that young. Do you know the whilst beyond the topic of cartoons? You know he's no good. If you don't know he's no good, you are that young.
Not that old.
So I'm just exposing my age.
There's almost Peppa Pig there.
The real menace.
So for me, I think we always associated, besides the Chinese movies, because we watched a lot of Chinese movies, the Bruce Lee's and all.
Yes, it's the
and then
karate.
after that, we go play out. Doing the things there. But I think a lot of things we took from TV was cartoons.
Definitely.
So I think it's important, maybe going forward, as part of introducing the subject matter of atoms or the concept of science like atoms into the cartoon industry, if I
Yeah.
can put it that way. That in itself, if you inculcate, or the concept of science into kids at an early age, I think it helps a lot when it comes to, later on in life. It becomes a normal part of life. If you understand the science, it becomes easier, because you're familiar with it.
It should be relatable. I mean, and it's interesting you bring up that analogy of superheroes, especially in the cartoon one. I'm thinking of a particular example of, like your cartoon Superman who gets beaten up and Lex Luthor actually exposes him to kryptonite. But now, for him to regain his strength, he must actually go closer to the sun to receive that energy.
Like Superman.
Superman,
Yeah.
that's exactly what he does.
Yeah.
So he gets exposed to the sun. The cosmic rays actually recharge his cells, the
And-
atoms. Atoms that we talk about.
Essential.
So it's very interesting, and there's a scientific sort of parallel there.
Sure.
The concept is in itself is scientific.
It's scientific,
So those are the types of things that we can start getting kids interested in understanding. And it's not only the teachers' responsibility to do that. As parents, we should start to spark the children's curiosity, and it goes back to now conducting actual research. You don't have to be a boffin in science.
You just need to
Google
be
is
curious.
there as well. So you spark that curiosity, and it becomes a sort of a normal conversation around the house. So that's how it should be, I believe. Science shouldn't be viewed as
Very out of
No,
the
no.
ordinary.
Or something that's only learned at school or in classroom.
When it's everyday life,
literally everyday
actually.
life, Everything that you literally do, from just cooking,
Yeah.
from playing soccer, how hard you actually kick it, how high you actually throw a ball. All of those things are examples, classical examples of how physics or science works.
And even guys like MacGyver, he was very scientific.
That's a classic.
And-
Do you know
and-
MacGyver? Not the
Not the
Clearly
MacGyver.
not.
talking about the
Clearly
MacGyver
not.
who could build a bomb out of
Hilarious.
out of this mic and probably this cup. The modern one.
I don't know any.
The one who uses a tablet. He knows that one.
Yeah, no. So I think we need to get to that type of, and for me, even to bring concepts like, because we understand the power of atoms, or rather nuclear, which we'll get to show that actually it is powerful, and with its power, you need to somehow bring responsibility to it. Because if you look at, even when you look at Superman, I think Superman is the only good example, I would say, of the use of nuclear or atomic energy. In a lot of cartoons, you see these crazy guys who are like scientists, and then they are kind of funny, like even the way they walk,
Always
like,
trying to invent some weapon that's gonna wipe out humanity.
So they're seen in a bad light, and I think we need to move away from that. And to bring, there are a lot of applications, starting from medical applications, the x-rays that we go for, the leg is broken, whatever, the fracture, you go and you do an x-ray. That's atomic energy, and it's applied on a daily basis. So these are the kind of the good stuff that we need to sort of put out, or rather that should be put out there in cartoons for kids to familiarize themselves with, or to know, so that when they're older, you don't have a community that's almost like sort of not favoring nuclear without any basis. So it needs to be very well sort of brought into our normal daily lives.
But again, I think, especially as it relates to nuclear, there needs to be a very deliberate effort to strike a balance between the science and the politics, because it has become so mired in controversy, especially in the country, given what the Department of Energy then tried to do with this whole nuclear deal. But we won't get into that right now. But I'm saying, people shouldn't be understanding just the political
That's
sort of
right.
downside
Yeah.
of the thing without appreciating, the science
Upside.
behind it and the benefits that it brings. Because I mean, just look at the place where we at now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good things that are coming from the use of the atomic energy.
Yeah.
So, but it's not in the public domain like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
So
it's not well.
it's not a conversation that people can comfortably have in terms of everyday application. But once the conversation comes up, it always becomes about the dark
Okay,
cloud.
it
Around,
is.
But we need to start debunking these types of things and get people interested in talking factually about the whole thing. So for me, that's where it's at, and I believe that's where we're lacking as proponents for this particular subject matter, energy as a whole. I mean, scientists talk to scientists, engineers talk to engineers, and you cannot have a civil conversation that brings everybody on board in terms of the support for a particular type of energy or technology like that. You need to start opening it up to anyone really.
Yeah,
I mean,
and talking about that, and actually, I think it's a good idea because from where we are right now, I mean, we're not in labs and goggles and test tubes or whatever.
with the lab
We,
coat,
we scientists as we are,
Yeah,
and science shouldn't be looked at only from a lab coat perspective. I mean, there's a lot of applications of science, or how science can be, or the people who actually practice science.
Yeah.
So, and actually, this picture, and this is actually his Buddha here, by the way, holding an atom.
very depth.
This guy is in a suit.
Looking
It
very
shows,
depth.
it shows, that science is actually kind of a very professional profession.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can glamorize it.
Yeah.
It is.
The same way you can have somebody who's a business person wearing
Yeah.
a suit. Why
Yeah.
can't the scientist wear a suit?
I mean, exactly. I always like this series, and I watch it almost every time. Suits. I mean, when you look at those guys are dope, or they are great. But they are in suits and they look fresh. So I mean, similarly, I mean, we chilled.
Yeah.
We chilled. We don't really have lab coats, or we have to have lab coats or anything like that. So science shouldn't be looked at only as people in the science lab trying to mix things there and then there's an explosion or whatever. So it's not that. There's a lot of good that's coming out of the science and atom as we speak. So in actual fact, even in movies, I see there's a concept that I sort of thought of. Maybe it's actually, whether it's a concept that makes sense or not. The Atomic Blonde movie, I think we once spoke about. It's a movie that Charlize Theron in there. She's looking as good looking as possible, and at the same time you're talking about a lady who's the concept of having a person blonde and the word atomic.
Yeah.
It's two parallels that bringing it together in one concept,
Yeah.
and you're having something like Charlize Theron in Atomic Blonde. I think it's brilliant. And if we have stories like that sort of helps in debunking the whole thing about atoms. Actually, atoms could be looked as maybe I don't want to use explicit words, but good looking. The atoms are good
They
looking.
are. The science behind it, yes,
Yeah.
they deem them to be really
Yeah, the science behind.
appealing.
Yeah,
that's the word.
yeah. The science behind. The
But
science
I
has
see
a
you
good
were trying to run away from that four letter. Word, yeah.
The science. Oh no, background. Yeah.
But you can't see them, so you can only imagine.
Yeah, you can only imagine the background of science because you can't see the
You
atom.
put a face there.
Yeah.
This one,
This one is
This one is
good.
definitely
It's my atom.
Oh, but in addition to that, I mean, the other thing that you can make appealing is the concept. It's cool to be in the scientific world because it actually contributes towards the cool gadgets that we are using now. So
True.
kids must start to see the correlation between those things.
Definitely.
When you're holding your phone, why are you able to use it? Where does this whole thing start?
Yeah.
So, and those are not the stories that you can have with your kids, because all they know is I want this phone.
That's
it. But they don't,
The superficial.
you know, yeah. So we must start to actually make it cool.
To make it cool.
Yeah, it should be.
So the controversy, I think it's something also that I would say a topic on its own when you talk about the downside of use of nuclear or
for sure.
atomic science.
For sure.
But it's something that perhaps we'll sort of deliberate on at some point.
Yeah.
But maybe just going back into the simplicity of science or the simplicity of an atom. I thought maybe it's Buddha, now that since this is your picture, you can just pretty much explain to us, like in simple terms, like what does it constitute?
Yeah, actually, what is this
What
thing?
is-
This
yeah,
guy is
this
holding.
thing.
Yeah, what's this thing?
Like great power.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
what are you holding?
Yeah. But you see, atoms are something that, as you know, you can't see. But however, the model or from the concept of an atom, it's defined as it constitutes particles, which if you see here, the ones that are with orbitals, they are orbiting. At the center there, you have what you call is the nucleus. That is the brain, where actually it starts from there. That's the brain, as you think your brain.
You know, I like. Sorry, Buddha, just to interrupt you. There's a basketball player, Carmelo Anthony. So every time when he scores a three, he goes like. So that's a three. Oh, sorry. Sorry. The three comes from
Yeah. So that's the engine. This is the nucleus, which.
By the way, Buddha, sorry for interrupting you. By the way, Penyo, we're gonna have an episode that's talking about cars, electric cars, right? So Penyo is a fanatic. She's a horsepower fanatic. So when Buddha talks about an engine, Penyo knows all the nitty-gritties about it.
Way.
So the talks and all and everything, what is it? Buddha, there's another term.
This is our car burning.
Yeah, because the car is so it's a revolutions per minute, RPMs. Yeah. She's American.
Tell you all about it.
Horsepower.
Yeah. So you see at the nucleus at the center here, which is your engine, if you would like. It has particles here, which are your positively charged, which are your protons and your neutrons. Then you have the orbitals here, which would be your electrons, which are revolving around here. So as we define an atom, it can constitute a number of protons and a number of electrons, which would basically be the character of that atom. Which
and talking about characters, you know that guy in wrestling. Yeah, I'm just looking at that
Oh,
picture. Like, 5 times.
Right.
Bugatti.
Oh yeah, Bugatti.
Bugatti.
Yeah.
That's a character on its own.
Yeah. So that is basically what
sorry,
constitutes what constitutes an atom.
When we get to the periodic table, Buddha, sorry, I'm interrupting you a lot. We need to talk about who would you associate a particular element with.
That would be an
Vince
interesting
McMahon.
one. You know what?
Yeah, that would be.
Just in addition, while Buddha was explaining this,
Yeah.
you asked about the most basic definition. I just remembered something when you were talking about positive charges and negative charges. In the basic definition of the atom, they told us that the atom is actually electrically neutral.
Yes.
And you would get marks for that.
Yes.
So if you didn't mention that, you wouldn't get the
You
full
don't,
marks for
yeah,
the definition.
yeah.
So I thought let me just bring that in.
Yeah, it's like
So,
they cancel each other.
they cancel each other out. So
balance.
it will be that proton in the nucleus, like Buddha is saying,
Yeah.
and then the orbiting electron is negative. So
Yes,
they cancel each
Yeah.
other. The net charge is
It's
zero.
like partners,
Really?
Yeah.
But that's an interesting one. You think partners cancel each other out? What are you saying?
Well, it's true. What do you think, Penny? I think
Then-
that's a
Not
different
thinking.
idea.
It depends on the character and how you associate it. Is it purely based on male and female? Or male?
Oh, that's a good dimension.
Oh, female and female.
No, but still, it's characters.
Yes,
different
it
characters.
doesn't matter
Yeah.
if it's.
Yeah.
So, okay, then essentially well, we also live in a world where we have polygamous relationship. So
that
then
one
what?
is
Is it an iron?
it has a lot of protons and neutrons inside. So it's,
You can either say that or it has more electrons or whatever.
yeah, it's a deuterium.
Yeah.
So this thing, okay, I'm not promoting that anyway. So,
But why not?
yeah.
You can promote.
But talk about promoting. You know, don't you think like electrons should be looked like, this other exotic dancing? You know, like they call it dancing around the pole. So electrons are
Those
sort of,
exotic
So
dances.
the U-class is the Pope.
yeah, the electrons are doing their thing.
Yeah. That's another way of looking
You can
at
actually
it.
analogize it to that. So yeah.
Yeah. No.
You see,
That's an
it's
interesting
sexy now.
That's an interesting thing.
It is an interesting
And now
thing.
if you're actually going to use that kind of an explanation, I'm sure it will definitely stick with a lot of people.
Right.
It will definitely stick with a lot of people. So essentially, without the pole, the lady or the dancer is not really performing.
Yeah, the electron has
Performing
to
to her
perform.
greatest, yes.
Yeah,
So,
around the pool.
exact, around the pole.
So the
Yes.
only
Everything
difference-
is centered at the pool.
Exact.
Hey people, the way you are saying the Pope,
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah,
Maybe
but
it's the North Pole. Or
yeah, maybe
Yeah.
that type of.
and talk about, yeah, sorry, it is.
No, I was going to say, okay, the only idea that would collapse,
I'm just gonna move this.
that concept is the fact that that lady is able to come into contact with the pole, whereas the electron can't ever do that because it would
Yes.
collapse the
Yes.
entire system.
Yep.
But yeah,
Please, no,
but
no,
you
no.
see, these are the things that kids need to start investigating for themselves. And it becomes interesting once you read more into the subject.
Yeah.
What are you doing, Mr.
Sorry, I was
Oh,
for the
okay.
thing because
But-
the
but-
sun is
but,
moving this
but
way.
if you think about it, Tebo, talking about electron coming into contact, you think about magnets.
But it's
Yeah.
You think about the concept of magnets.
Exactly,
You
yeah.
try and take two sides of the
Polar opposites,
yeah.
Yeah.
Try to
Exactly,
put them
yes.
together.
It won't
you
happen,
know.
yeah.
You can try as much as you can.
Yeah.
But they will
You
always
know, they will always
repel.
repel. So that's the similar concept.
Exactly,
And
yeah.
why you find the electrons
Just
orbiting around,
orbiting,
like
yeah.
that, orbiting around.
Because of that charge.
Yeah.
Yeah, that force that repels them.
Yeah.
The Colombic, they call it the Colombic force.
Colombic
Yeah.
force.
Yeah, but that's not, the kids can actually go and
No,
research
yeah,
it.
no, you can always have another template.
You know, yeah.
Yeah, but the fact is, an atom has got electrons and protons or whatever, and then they are bonded together in an atom. So yeah, if you go again exotic, there's a bond dash H. So it's another way if you go to the hubs. So yeah. Then there's this interesting term or two terms that deal with interactions within the atom itself. Penyo, I think you're good in explaining that. At one point, I think you did explain that.
Resident dictionary.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
Is the F word, not the fusion, not others.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the F
Yeah,
word.
the
It's
F
faint.
word. It's fusion and fission.
Yeah.
So if you can just briefly what those are. This is almost like everything is dynamic in life, right? Even in, atoms are dynamic and how they interact. There's a way they interact, and within that, I think there's two terms, the two Fs. So if you can just explain to
Fin.
yeah, F for 40.
So essentially, in the nuclear space, these are reactions that are deemed nuclear reactions. So in a fission reaction, this is where you have a high proton atom that is essentially split into two different atoms, I guess if you can say that. And then by actually splitting, going back to the explanation that we had, you will be then changing the characteristic of that initial atom. So which means then you will now transform them into two different atoms. And from that splitting, you will be able to harvest a lot of energy. And essentially that is what drives the nuclear reaction that you see, or you have to cut this much. So,
That's electricity, right? It's charged up.
so you harvest the energy that is released when splitting this atom. You end up with two different atoms, and from that energy, you are able to heat up your water, turn the turbines, and then generate electricity. Essentially, that's what a lot of reactions or reactors in the world. Yeah, it's in the world. Yeah, they use a lot of fission reactions. And then with fusion, it's basically where you take two low proton slash neutron atoms, and then you combine them. So we still get back to that idea that you, in the simplest form of an atom, they should the characteristics should essentially remain the same.
Cool her down that she's talking about high energy. Yeah.
But that's
Particle
gonna be
physics.
picked up by the sound. So
Yeah, it's fine.
It's fun.
So in the fission reaction, this way. So in the fission reaction, like I've just mentioned, you take two low proton slash neutron atoms, you combine them, you change them now into a different atom from what you initially started with, and from that, because in the fusion reaction, you need actually to input a lot of energy, but from that reaction, you will definitely yield far more energy that can actually power literally the whole world if we actually had a fusion reaction. That's how powerful it is. And just to equate, or just to give it an example of a fusion reaction, it is the sun. Something that you witness every single day. The sun is literally 24/7, 365, all day, every day. Fusion reaction. So you can imagine how much power we can actually harness from just obtaining a fusion reaction. Yes.
The hardest under
That's
the
very,
sun.
it's very interesting to me. And when I first learned about these terms, especially the fusion one, the fission one, the splitting of the big atoms, I always wondered if you can't create your own mineral because
I actually had the same idea.
you think about but it borders down then to the realm of alchemy where you can actually transform
Yeah.
metals. But I always wondered, can't you just put some type of some
And
type
make
of
your own.
why
Make your
not? Create diamonds if you can.
Yeah, that's where I was going. That's where I was going. But I think there's this a new science center they did somewhere in the north in Europe, where they sort of spin atoms at a very it's kind of like a big circle. So they move around and then they crush atoms. Yeah, and then they create new elements.
Yeah, that's
That
that's
the
also
accelerator.
interesting.
Yeah, the accelerator.
Yeah,
Yeah.
accelerator physics.
So that's one great application of atomic science. Let's
Yeah.
put it that way. And a lot of technologies have actually emanated from the collision of atoms or the exploring of the different components of atoms. And I think, Buddha, if you can just elaborate when you're explaining the nucleus, because I think that's where the exotic parts of atom, where there's a lot of exploration that's happening, especially in the nanotechnology space, and then the accelerator-based space. Even here at Next, I think they do something similar, where they bombard some atoms and then they create medicines out of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think if you can just those components in the with the spanner, you can just sort of the gearbox.
Yeah, but in essence, all those technologies are based on manipulating atoms. In a nutshell, actually, it's just you manipulate atoms, you change their behavior, then you harness the energy, but in terms of the principle of all the technologies is that it's just the manipulation of atomic behavior.
Yeah.
From the accelerator-based physics, which is where you accelerate atoms at very high speed. You collide them. In that collision, you get a resultant release of energy. You form new elements, because also in the collision of the atoms, you can get fusion of the atoms. You can get splitting of the atoms. So that in itself is manipulating the atoms, giving a resultant of new atoms which are characteristic of different elements. You see, so in a sense, based on what you're targeting, you can actually manipulate the starting atoms, which is what the accelerator-based physics is based on. Similarly, you can do irradiation, but I think for irradiation, it's first explaining how a nuclear reactor works. Because irradiation is actually based out of the fission or the reaction of a nuclear reaction. So I'm not sure who can take it. Just explain how a nuclear reactor works.
You are doing very well.
And
Yeah,
then
you're doing very well.
You see, but it starts in the reactor, It starts in the reactor, the nuclear reactor. Penyo explained the fission and fusion. However, as you would know, currently the only advanced technology is the fission. So any reactor out there is a fission, it's a fission-based reactor. So meaning it works on the splitting of the atoms. We have a reactor here where we are. We have a reactor in Cape Town, South Africa. So we do have this technology. And surprisingly, a lot of people do not know that we have a nuclear reactor in the country. So it's one of it's a concern also, but it's one of the things that we still have to, as a nuclear industry, basically, we still have to be rigorous on in terms of getting people to understand this technology, to bring it closer to home. Especially because we did talk about that a lot of times associated with the bad side of atomic energy. However, we have so much potential. So then, moving from a nuclear reactor now, generally, as it was explained, we do the fission reaction, we generate heat, we heat water, we generate steam, we drive a turbine, we generate electricity.
That one.
Exactly. Yes. But however, in always explaining, as much as a nuclear reactor might be complex, but even if you go to a coal power plant, the concept is the same. It's just the starting material, what you generate the heat with. You burn coal, you heat the water, you generate steam, you turn the turbine. You see. So in essence, it's not that is that complex. It's just because of how you start it up. You see. And always the simplest explanation of a nuclear reactor is a giant kettle.
That's it.
That's basically what it is.
It's a giant kettle.
That's an interesting
That's
concept.
basically what it is.
That's the simplest way you can explain what is a nuclear without being too technical. It's a giant kettle.
Just a kettle.
What you do, you boil water there. You boil water there, you generate steam, you drive a turbine. That's the most simplest explanation. So now, besides the power aspects of the fission or the nuclear reactor, that is where you get now things like irradiation of material. You can do in the field of material science, for example, irradiation. So now, besides the power aspects of the fission or the nuclear reactor, that is where you get now things like irradiation of material. You can do in the field of material science, for example, you irradiate material with the beam. You can manipulate the material. Similarly, for nuclear medicine, you do irradiation of target plates. What is it? Cobalt 60. cesium 137. Yes. And then
The other one is, what is it? Technician.
technician,
molybdenum,
iridium, and these are all isotopes that are used in nuclear medicine, radio medicine, basically. So in essence, from besides the power aspects, from the same fission reaction, you get to move to radiation of material to different applications. I mean, besides even the medicine, you get your agricultural applications, So the applications are very broad in essence, yes. And also even in the nanomaterial aspects. So in terms of in the material science side, irradiation of materials, you actually manipulate material at the nanoscale. At the nanoscale, that is where you get better control and you can get better influence of the material, So that is another application of atomic energy. That a lot of times I would think it's still something that it's lacking in terms of people getting to know the benefits or the beauty, I would call the beauty of atomic science. There's a lot of potential there in terms of what you can do. It can do amazing things. However, it's always viewed as this
mushroom cloud.
That
famous big
it's always associated with the explosion.
Destructive power of it.
But a lot of times also I always try to take a contrast there. If you can imagine that a mushroom cloud, now imagine all that potential being used for good.
That's another way.
That's always my take. If you know how powerful it is,
harness it in the proper way.
If you harness it in the proper way, now imagine the potential.
Endless.
And all those applications that Buddha actually referred to, it's an interesting one you brought up, because we're actually at a place where a lot of those things are actually done right inside here. And the most popular one, people don't really know that without the manipulation of the material, silicon doping or using radiation, this thing of yours won't be working as well. So I think so I think at some point we must just dedicate a young episode just showing people how this energy from the atom can actually be used to improve everyday life. So I think Buddha did a very good job in terms of telling people how the concepts can be applied and then in running technology that can be used. So I think that was a good one.
Obviously, I think you will have to at one point just talk about communications and also talk about power, the different kind of reactors. There's different kinds of engines. You've got the TSI, you've got the G63.
This is your area.
Or W16, F something. So we'll possibly touch base on the different reactors and try and explain what they are in simple terms, so that you know the different cars that we have within the fraternity of nuclear.
The fleet.
The fleet of cars. These are expensive cars. Not really expensive, but now that's the term there. But it's something that we'll talk also about, the costs around nuclear and the costs associated with other energy sources. We'll touch base with that at one point. I think it's quite an interesting one.
Yes, you cannot talk energy and you can't talk energy and not bring the idea of cost. I think at some point the truth needs to be out there for people to make up their own minds and really support whatever technology based on merit, not on a political narrative. So and a platform like you said, like this, I mean, we can even interview one or two people that know about costs and, have them debate this thing, but keep it at a level where people can actually don't talk over people. Because I feel like it happens all the time. I mean, when they want to drive a certain narrative, then
And they
they
go
barge you with
technical.
you know,
Yeah.
so there's no need, man. I think.
Like, hey mama, you shot that chlorophyll. Don't take it.
Imagine.
Oh, back in the day, your chlorophyll is it's a green bottle. It's chlorophyll.
What was that? Okay, now pizza zero plan.
Alumina didn't beat. Yeah. So yeah, no, we need to, and for me, it's an indictment, or we have an energy crisis in the country, and we have youth that are going to be taking over this country, but not necessarily talking about energy issues because of some agenda that's being driven. We need to start talking about the science, understand the science, build it,
Yeah.
so that we can actually run the economy of the country. But you do that only when people know what it takes to even have this type of technology. So, you can't do that if you don't, sell it to the young ones. And you can't sell it to the young ones when you complicate it and then you make people, disinterested in the subject. So, you guys must make it cool.
Yeah, we need to have like influencers.
Yeah, man, we must make it cool. I mean,
Yeah.
you shouldn't be, being a nerd should be a cool thing now. We are in the information age
Yes.
now. So if you don't have information,
Yeah, no,
you're left,
it's
you're
almost
left
like, yeah,
behind.
yeah,
So
out
you
of
need to
this.
evolve as a human being as well. So we must move away from a nerd being somebody who gets picked on to somebody who people view as a role model, because you can change the trajectory of history, you can change the future, So, and you get kids interested in reading a lot about these things and just developing the skills and applying that skill set in the area of passion. But since we're talking about energy, we're talking about development of technology, these are things that we should be driving. So for me, that's where it's at.
And talking about the icons, maybe just to put faces to the science.
Yeah.
Even if you look at the recent guys like Elon, who's he's made. Like Africans is Hamak.
He's an innovator of
He
note.
is, yeah. And one would look at him not really as a celeb kind of, but now recently he's kind of like that.
Yeah.
He's now into investing in different platforms that we know of, and
He's a venture capitalist.
Yeah.
That's what you do. If you have the money, why not?
if you got the wallet,
In your bouquet for the money. So those are the types of people that the kids need to start learning about and seeing, how being that type of person who is curious enough and dares enough to explore things can actually change the course of history. So, science can do that. So
it can.
so science can do that. And it all begins with the atom.
That's the alpha.
So,
I wanted to bring this message.
Oh yeah. Life begins there.
Life begins with an atom.
Wow, that's great.
yeah,
That's absolutely true, and I think it goes even at the depth of the concept. If I look at it even from a not really like literal sense, but from a maybe a poetic sense, that's quite an important source of life, if you can, and because it gives life. The beginning of life is actually an atom.
definitely.
I saw, okay, but I don't think we'll talk about other things that are sort of constituting life. But I think that's the basis, essentially.
Yeah, the fundamental of it is that it's an atom.
Yeah.
It is.
You can put whatever that you would say, not constitutes, but
Yeah.
ultimately it's an atom.
It is an atom.
Ultimately an atom.
Yeah, and by the way, guys, we'll be selling the merch. It's if you want T-shirts, I think we'll put an advert where we sell the merch, the T-shirts, the hats. We're gonna have sort of a whole range where you can just buy. There'll be a telephone that you can call in or send a message, and then you get the merch from. Anyways, the other part that I thought we should talk about, but maybe it's an episode with its own, is when we talk about the likes of Elon. Is the goals of nuclear, the goals of science.
Do you mean goats as in the ones that eat grass or the
greatest of
21st
all
century?
time.
The 21st century goats.
well, the
Because
21st
I
century.
see a lot of people now being wanting to be like the goats. No, but I understand.
Yeah, no,
It's fashionable.
it is fashionable.
Yeah,
now,
look, we can't talk about
Yeah.
the results of the technology discoveries and not really pay homage to the ones that put the effort
Sure.
in.
Yeah.
And in my view, we should have a specific time slot allotted where we just take people through and these people's discoveries and how they change the course of history as well. I mean, it's gonna be an interesting one. We can even have a competition around.
Actually,
Yeah.
we can put it out there.
Yeah.
Make it interesting.
Yeah, switching the honey pot.
Yeah.
Have a prize for somebody who wins.
So already you got clues.
Yeah.
There's two important icons there. But yeah, something that we'll talk about later.
We'll talk about that. It will be an interesting
It will
one.
be.
Yeah.
It will be interesting. So talking about interesting issues, I think that probably the quiz time. What do you think? Not yet. I think so. I don't know. I just
ready
thought
for a quiz.
I thought we need to have a quiz.
Ready for war.
We're ready for war. Yeah. Because, or maybe before we even get to the war part, even when it comes to the subject of science, there's also the language. And
Yes.
I think your T-shirt also has some language part in it.
Yeah.
Nuclear is the love language of electricity, guys. That's very true. So we thought there's a language for science. What is that language? And that language, I think how we do science, we know that it's mathematics.
Yeah.
So I think we understand that to understand a person, they have to speak a language.
The language, yeah.
And the universal language of science, as we know it, it's mathematics. And I think it's one thing that we need to also emphasize.
Yeah.
That perhaps maybe from a career point of view, if kids want to take up careers that have to do with studying of an atom, then they might want to add mathematics into it. They might, what other subjects perhaps, maybe. Penyo has done, radiation science. Okay.
Yes, I did radiation science, yes. But in terms of your questions, I would definitely recommend physical sciences.
Okay.
Because it teaches you the fundamentals, the most basic parts of science in all its entirety, be it science going into either the medical side or the health science, going into the agricultural sciences, the industrial science. Essentially, the fundamentals, you will find them all there in your physical science class.
Yeah.
And from that class, you are able to also get different categories, like your chemistry side and your physics side. And in some way, you can also bridge in the biological science into that class. But I know in a lot of cases, if not all cases, biology or life sciences, it stands as its own subject. So, but you can literally see or experience the correlation and how everything comes together and how life forms from an atom. So yeah, I would definitely recommend physical science any day.
Any additions to that?
I think, especially because those are mostly the only offerings in the site, especially at the basic level. And also what is common in every school. You have your maths, you have your physical sciences. I know in some schools, they do offer other disciplines of sciences. Some technical schools, they don't offer other disciplines of sciences, but the most basic or the fundamentals of science, even at the lower grades, it's your mathematics, it's your physical sciences or natural sciences, moving into physical sciences. Yeah, I think that is generally what is common for everyone.
Yeah.
In other schools you get your technical, fundamental is the mathematics and the physical sciences, which generally gives you, even if you branch into electrical technology, chemical, civil,
Yeah.
but ultimately you are talking physical sciences, you are
Yeah.
talking mathematics, you are just applying it
In different
as a
disciplines.
discipline.
Yeah.
So that is the fundamental for elementary learning, let's say.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Talking about now, we're moving into I think we're going back in time now. We spoke about the periodic table, we spoke about the characters of atoms. Denzel, you perhaps maybe want to give just an overall description of the thinking around the periodic table. I think we spoke a bit more about characters.
Yeah.
It's there, I think, right there. So
Yes, definitely
Middle,
in the
top,
middle
top,
of
middle.
the two
yeah,
grades.
middle center.
Yeah, middle. You're taking me back.
Yeah, yo, man.
Taking me back now. Yeah, and for me, the earliest memory of the periodic table used to be something I used to sort of detest back in school because it seemed like this intricate thing that the teachers just wanted us to memorize without the
Understanding.
basis behind why we should be actually memorizing this thing, and you spoke about the different elements having different characters, and basically a periodic table of all the elements, well, not necessarily all the elements, but some of the elements that you find in nature, they are categorized into the specific characteristics and different families based on how they are formed.
Yeah.
And that's essentially how the world is. People have different ethnicities, you have different, well, there's only one race really, the human race, but
Yeah.
if you want to argue differently, you can say
Yeah.
different races as well. But basically that's what the periodic table of elements is. And if you want to understand anything more about the behavior of a specific element or an atom, that's where you look at, because there are different specifications about what makes an element a specific element and the grouping on the periodic table. So that's the most basic sort of definition that I can give to the kids. But if they want more information, you know what to do.
Yeah.
Consult a book.
Of course.
Go learn more about the sciences.
Yeah.
But at some point I grew to appreciate the periodic table and the power of the discoveries that were made. And how science keeps progressing because of the understanding of it. So, it's part of your everyday life. It's why industry is built. It's why you have labs.
Sure.
It's why you have those Buddhas mixing things.
Yeah. Oh, you mean mixing things?
Yeah, mixing, yeah, definitely. I mean, make it cool, but yeah.
Kind
so
of
that-
mixing.
mixing things, so yeah, for me that's
Mixing energies.
mixing energy.
Yeah.
That's what a periodic table really is, just a map of where you can find the different elements, and if you want to understand the behaviors of these elements, you find all that information there. So basically that's what it is.
And just touching on that thing, I think it's quite an important time for women. And I know one of the key women in science contributed so much to the discovery of a lot of atoms that I would say are categorized under the family of reactive atoms. Maybe you can vouch for support.
For the Mbogo.
Yeah. The atom, I don't know. It's relevant, but anyway, just take us through this iconic lady and how you as the industry woman are sort of taking the bait and fall through various platforms. But maybe I don't think it's a bad thing to mention a few. But yeah, just take us through this.
Okay, well, the all-time greatest.
Oh. Are you ready? Are you ready for this?
Honestly,
Cheers.
in my view, the leading point is that she was a woman, or she was a woman. Ms. Marie Curie.
I almost thought you said Mona Lisa was the Okay.
Anyway, Ms. Marie Curie, she was conducting some experiments in her lab where she found this metal and it seemed to be, if I do remember her story very well, it seemed to be glowing under certain lighting conditions, and she later found out that, I'm not sure which one is it. Really? I'm not sure.
It was glowing like that though, you know that rosary when you
Yes,
switch off the
yes.
lights.
Yeah.
No.
So that's what was happening, and I later found out that she saw that, maybe I'm mixing stories. Is she the one that she saw the she could actually photograph her hand? Or was it Rundgren?
That's wrong.
That's
that's
Rundgren, eh?
Rundgren, yeah. But I think wasn't he the husband to her? Or somebody was. I think Mari
Mari
was
had
married
yes,
to some guy
who
was
a
also
Curie
doing
guy.
who was also doing
Studies or research in
yes,
the
in
radioactivity.
It was a family thing.
family business.
Keeping it close, keeping it close. But anyway, she made a very pivotal research or findings from her research, and that is actually what's this? Skyrocketed science essentially, and she has really contributed so much that a lot of the ladies in the nuclear space, there's even a scholarship, a Marie Curie scholarship that is offered to mainly ladies. I don't want to say it's just to ladies, but she has a scholarship after her that deals with the nuclear space. It's not really closing you off to one subject, but it's sort of broader sense. And I think it's offered by the IEA, which is the International Atomic Energy Agency, and essentially it's striving for ladies to be more involved and to be more interested in the radioactive, in the nuclear space. So that is one thing. And just to add on to that, talking about ladies and support structures that are actually offered out there, there's also a WINS community. I think it's called the Women in Nuclear Science. Yeah, Women in Nuclear Science, if I'm not wrong. It's also offered, or it was started by the IEA, where it encourages ladies, girls, and women to be in the nuclear space. So I really do appreciate that.
For the women.
Of course,
Anything.
So essentially, what I'd like for people to take away from this is that ladies, girls, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. You can even see self. I'm trying to infiltrate the men's world because science was really dominated by a lot of males. So there are a lot of initiatives that are out there that are actually encouraging ladies and girls, girl child, to join the fraternity and actually be out there and explore their greatness, because there's a lot of potential out there, and having to be open or to be exposed to such opportunities, it's actually a great way to cement yourself in the science world. So that's pretty much what I can tell you about that.
Perfect.
Thank you.
No, that's well said.
Thank you.
And we appreciate the women in the nuclear space very much.
No, I'm a living testimony.
Supported.
I'm a living testimony.
No, absolutely. Yeah. So we thought now that you've got the reins, maybe you can sort of take us through a quiz, and I thought I would actually do that, but maybe just for the women, you can just take us through, and then you let us know. Do you select yours, or do we do the ones that? Okay.
Yours are very
Mine are just general
I'm
questions.
not sure whether women are difficult.
They chow your brain cells. They chow your brain cells.
They chow capacity. Brain capacity.
Whatever that's left of your brain,
Hey.
that's fine. So for the quiz, I'm gonna ask. I think there's 5 questions there. So
You
I'm gonna.
can add a bonus question of yours, and then we'll have to.
But it has to be around the atom
Sure.
space,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because
That's
that
your
was the
point.
subject for today.
Sure.
So okay, I'll just think of one.
You need to do the rules first.
Yes. So each one is going to be assigned a number. Or do you wanna go by me?
Yeah, no, we can go by names, but it just
Number is
maybe
fine,
abbreviations.
No, a number is
I
fine.
think
It's fine.
that's alright, right?
Yeah.
So therefore, you'll be assigned number 1. Boo number 2.
Maybe.
And then you'll be assigned number 3.
Number 11.
No.
Okay.
Maleve.
Guys, I didn't mean that.
What you gonna do?
I
You gonna give me that
I'll show you with the answer.
Okay, so for the first questions, I'm gonna read the question and then I'm gonna give you the options. It's a multiple choice. So, and then whoever says their number first gets to answer first, and we'll see if they're right or wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, the answers. So for the first question is, it says the 3 basic components of an atom are: number 1, proton, neutrons, and ions; number 2, protons, neutrons, and electrons; number 3, proton, neutrinos, and ions; number 4, protium, deuterium, and tritium.
What?
Two.
I heard one.
That's me. I can get the benefit because I was called twice. I was called twice.
Okay, no problem.
So I was the first one.
So now
Best of the mark.
No, but I was giving an answer.
Best of the mark. Yeah,
But the rules,
the rules.
Rules are
And like we are penalizing you, you owe us 1 mark. So the correct answer or the most correct answer. Which one do you want?
the correct answer,
The second option.
which is
But there's no options.
Yeah. True. The second answer. The second answer, what was the second? Read it for me.
no. What are the 3 basic components of an atom?
And I don't know, it's the second one.
So essentially, the answer is proton, neutrons, and
And
electrons.
yes, electrons.
Question number 2. Question number 2 says an element is determined by the number of: number 1, protons; number 2, electrons; number 3, neutrons; number 4, atoms.
One. Which what is me again? Will you read the options again? The correct answer is protons.
No.
The correct answer is protons.
Which one? Number 1.
Protons is number 1. No, protons is the correct answer.
And that is true. That is the correct answer. Coming to
So I won the World Cup.
No, but wait, there's still 5 more questions.
Oh, you just have to get one wrong and then.
the
This
third
penalty.
question is the nucleus of an atom
Obviously.
consists of number 1, proton, neutrons, and electrons; number 2, neutrons; number 3, electrons; or number 4, protons and neutrons.
One.
Do.
Oh, I thank you. Hey, thank you very much.
How was I thinking?
I will answer. Thank you, Zbuda. You are very kind.
Hey, but I
Oh,
went
yeah, protons.
You must say the number. You must say the number.
He said the number, but
Thank
he
you.
said the wrong number.
I'm saying when he answers, he must give you the
answer
the
is
number
the
for the
first-
answer.
is the
We
first
all know
one.
the answer.
The
first
first
one.
one.
The first one.
Okay, you're right.
Yeah, it's the first one.
That
You
is
called out
correct.
the
Good.
answer.
First one, right?
You called out the answer.
Are you not calling out the answer?
What
is
were you
wrong?
calling out?
No, but
What is
No,
the
first one is my
wrong?
number.
The first, I know the first one is
Which
wrong.
one is
I
the
was
right
calling
one?
my number.
The right one is the protons and the neutrons. But I don't know which option it is. there.
What is the answer?
But they were rare.
Protons.
What is the answer? Tell me what is the answer.
What's
I don't know. Read them again.
Hey, the nucleus of an atom
Yeah.
consists of
Yeah?
Protons and neutrons.
Protons and neutrons, but I don't
What
know
number
which
is it?
option
What
is
number
what
it.
number is it then?
3.
It's number 4.
It's actually number 4.
Yeah, it's number
actually
4.
number 4.
Number 4.
You are probably listening.
Yeah, it's number 4. That means I get it.
You listen to
Hey, no, these numbers are ours.
number
These
4.
numbers are confusing.
It's number 4.
It's actually number 4.
It's number 4,
but
Yeah.
It's
he
better
didn't say
than
his
you
number
know.
first.
Well, he said my number and then I.
No, thing is, it's always 1-1. So
Yeah.
immediately I was 1. You know, I was 1.
I programmed you.
Yeah. So it's 2-1. 2-1.
Yeah, it's 2-1. I get it.
Guys, we answer with the number.
Yeah, you answer with your number.
With the number.
Wait, or you answer
You
with
answer
your
with your
number.
number.
And the number of the question.
But you can always say what the right
The right
answer
answer
is.
is yeah.
Because it's confusing. Now you have to remember to say your number and then you have to.
That's the beauty
Oh
of it.
yeah. Okay, fine. Let's try.
Yeah.
Let's try and do that. Okay.
So the fourth question is
Wow, must be meditating.
the fourth question is are you guys ready?
Yeah.
It says a single proton has what electrical charge? These are your options. I have a fourth option. The first option is the first option is negative charge. Second option is either positive or negative. The third, no charge. The fourth, positive.
I definitely do see. I definitely do see.
So the first to the podium was 1. Yes.
You see-
The correct answer is 3.
Guys, I don't know.
The problem is
I
it's
don't
not
know.
meditating. It's not
We are out
meditating.
here. We are
We are here, you know, we are here. We are here. Carrot, you know, carrot.
Oh my goodness.
Guys,
No,
but it's you guys.
bunch
like-
of losers.
It's not meditating.
We are here.
What's the answer? Who answered?
3.
You know the
3 is
answer.
the answer.
3.
Hey.
It's not 4.
No, it was 3.
3.
Yeah, I was going to lose this.
Guys, I must get this one. I must get this one.
Okay.
Well, you're still on 0. Hey, shame.
We get into
I'm
the fifth
trailing.
question now.
Bubbling under.
The fifth question says, which two particles would be attracted to each other? Number 1, all particles are attracted to each other. Number 2, electrons and protons. Number 3, protons and neutrons. Number 4, electrons.
3.
Why? You was not finished ready.
She was ready.
You was not finished ready. You can't call yourself when she's not finished. So this
We are
one is mine.
penalizing this guy.
This one is
We are
mine.
penalizing.
This
guys,
one
I'm
is
the
mine.
umpire here. Ne?
Okay, so what did
I
you say?
said 3.
What
Three
did
is the first thing that I heard.
Yes.
Because you were not finished.
Ah,
This is
no.
number
We are playing favorites.
Okay, no. If that's the case, then we need to come up with the rule that I need to finish.
Yes.
Alright, finish.
Because Lena, when you start
Then I'm
reading, I
gonna
can
change
always
the
say
question.
1.
I'm going to change the question.
Yeah, you can change the question.
Guys, I need to leave.
So losing is this painful. Now I know how France is.
I know this is bubbling under. No. It's not even top 10. Yeah. Guys. So things are you are the goat.
Yeah. No, I'm the cow. I'm the cow.
Yeah.
Hey, but the way the answer is difficult, I must say. Trying to remember those numbers. And in the middle of it, she's saying numbers.
Yeah.
So it confuses you.
Go to
I also need to think how I'm going to check
Oh, I have a nice question.
Don't complicate it.
I have a very nice one. Which atom is the most stable? Which atom from which element is the most stable in nature?
those are, you know,
Hey.
it's water.
Is that an atom.
Hey, yeah, so he's the loser.
Is there an
movie.
atom?
Yeah, loser
What is
today.
your question though?
Which atom from which element is the most stable in nature?
Helium.
Meaning which one?
Lead, uranium.
The most stable. Those ones can go radioactive disintegration. That one doesn't necessarily.
Diamond.
So what's the cutoff?
Isn't it lead?
What's the cutoff point from where you can actually do fusion of atoms? See, that's homework for the kid.
Including myself.
Is it? I guess that's the atom with the highest binding in it.
Yes.
Yeah. So it makes it the most
Ah.
stable. For you scientists, it should be a reference atom.
Hey.
Yeah. No, but that's not the question. Don't.
Nonetheless, it's still something to think about.
Yeah, it
Your
should be
question.
just there.
Why can't you just go like, where are you at?
This thing is very slow.
Oh, I can give you options, and then that's the bonus question.
It's fine.
What terms are you answering?
No, I won't answer it. I'm asking the question, so I won't answer it. I'll just give you options.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll give you sodium is number one, calcium,
Yes.
plutonium, and iron.
Three.
But it has
Three.
to be a specific.
3.
It has
Yes,
to be
yes.
It's 3. You remember?
My answer
No.
is number 4.
No, but
But it has to be a specific.
I was saying my number first. I
Oh,
Yes,
now
yes.
I'm the lost one.
Yes.
No, but that doesn't have to be the question. Yeah, man. It's very interesting. Did you find the question?
Wait, I just need to get on the side.
Hey, there's even a site.
Mm.
You must tell the kids where they can find more information about the app.
What website is it?
Yeah, put it on the thing.
Because I even asking things that are far off what we've learned.
I think another thing, the nuclear reactor application,
Yeah.
correlate.
It's a man. Also,
PBMR, yeah. You know.
It doesn't have to be multiple choice, right?
Also, we
It's
can
all
just
about
ask.
just answers.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine.
Make it multiple choice.
Yeah, that's fine.
What water is used cooling the reactor?
3.
3?
Deuterium.
I was just thinking.
But I'm thinking of a quiz here. I'm thinking you'll
No,
give
but
us
you
options.
said-
No, I'm thinking.
I said it doesn't have to be multiple questions.
I was
You
listening.
just give
I'm
answers.
thinking water, and I'm thinking maybe it says sparkling water, deuterium water, you
No,
know.
it's good. Leave him alone.
Yeah,
Leave
kidding.
him at one. At least we
Consolation prize.
rigged.
you know.
We just rigged this thing. Happy they discussed
Ten
it
years
before.
capture.
You can just, yeah, you captured it.
What is the device that is put near the reactor or in the reactor that is said to be a okay, wait.
Yes.
Am I feeling?
3.
How do we even know?
Moderator.
Guys,
That
wrong.
can't be a
It's
device.
wrong. It's
A
wrong.
moderator can't be a device.
It's a thing.
The control rod is that one.
It's a thing.
Which one? Which device?
A device with a certain element is put near or in the reactor core to produce. So I'm looking for 2 answers there. 2. To produce something that will drive the reaction. What is it?
3.
3?
Control rod.
No. I'm gonna ask this question again.
Yeah,
I'm
repeat
gonna-
the question. It's difficult.
This is a
You
device.
see why now?
It's a device.
This is a device. I don't want to say. Okay, this is a source. Let me
Okay.
say this is a source. I need the source's name. Or-
Fuel assembly. Yes.
Fuel element.
Wait, guys.
Oh.
This source is an element. There. I need the element.
Yeah.
Okay? It is put either near or in the reactor in order to provide that will drive the reaction. The
So
nuclear
neutron
reaction.
source, neutron gun.
Well,
Looking at the device, so what?
What is
this is the source. The device is the source. It's a certain source.
the device?
Fuel element.
No, an element. Let's leave devices and source.
Oh.
An element that is put near the reactor or in the reactor to provide the things that drive the nuclear reaction.
So it provides the neutron.
Uranium.
Uranium
You are
fuel.
right.
Uranium.
No.
The neutron source. It must be.
I'm looking for two answers.
And what's the
Yeah,
neutron
yeah,
source
yeah.
there?
Which one?
Because it's the
What is
fuel.
the neutron source?
Is the fuel?
No. The
gun.
initial. Actually, you can use a.
To start up the reaction.
Yes.
Nuclear machine.
It's a generator.
Nuclear
Isn't
generator.
it American 234?
Oh, that source.
Yes.
No,
Americium
that one is
Yes.
difficult.
We wouldn't
You are
have
killing
No,
us.
Penyo, no.
You are killing us.
No.
Okay.
We wouldn't
I should get it. It's a generator.
Yeah,
It
it's
started
fine.
up. I should get it.
Yes.
It's a generator.
Remember, don't go too
We're not
You said
giving
it's a
this.
neutron
Nice,
source.
the neutron source. So I'm
got
right.
half.
I'm more right than you.
You got 0.5.
Yeah, I'm more right
That
than
question
you.
is
But
not
it's a
valid.
generator, though.
It's valid.
It was scared
We
people.
disqualify
That's
that.
not what we want.
It's a
You just
device.
cut it out.
We disqualify that.
It's a device. It's a generator.
You must
Let it go. Yes.
a simple
He's
one.
trying to be
Let it
politically correct.
go.
A simple
We are
one.
disqualified.
Who is a scientist who discovered the laws of motion?
Four.
Yeah? What are you
Four.
saying? There's no 4 here.
I'm four.
Okay,
1, 2, 3,
okay.
4.
Oh, yo, now we know.
You go ahead.
Yeah.
One.
Newton,
He doesn't
Newton.
know.
This
Aye,
guy
aye,
is
doesn't
Newton.
know. You're out.
He doesn't know.
Next question.
Next one.
Next one. Buddha, you ask.
We don't have them here. Say.
Aye.
Isaac.
Newton.
Oh, you were answering. I thought you
was
were
asking.
asking a question.
Okay, you answered your question. You answered.
My question.
Ask a question.
Let me move back.
Let me see. What can I ask?
Hey, Lena, I'm struggling to formulate a
What
question.
can I ask? The simplest
Question to do with atoms, but that didn't have anything to do with atoms.
I think we just take
Oh, just as
yeah,
simple science questions.
science-based or
Yeah.
nuclear-based.
Can just, science/nuclear.
I know I have a
Okay, you go
good
ahead.
one. Yeah,
Where's
I have
this
a good
thinking
one.
about the question?
Which famous scientist is the cars that Elon Musk is making
Three.
named after?
Three.
Sure. Nikola Tesla.
Nikola Tesla. Buddha.
Not question whether I can. Hey, there's so much.
You drank
questions.
too much.
No, there's so much questions there. I'm thinking, man, it's something that's really interesting, you know.
Yeah.
It'll make you think.
Yeah.
Okay, no, it's fine. It's simple.
Yeah.
It's simple.
Okay.
Which element is used in a fission
Three.
reaction besides uranium?
Three. I said three. Plutonium.
Besides
No, why are you answering? Why are you answering? You wouldn't even acknowledge it.
besides uranium.
I think he got it at least.
Something, yeah, something, yeah.
Yeah. No,
But
that's
you know,
really
okay, we're
interesting.
not logging
Yeah.
Yeah. No, guys, I think we've had quite an interesting episode where we spoke about the atom. We spoke about its structure, how it's actually, how it is conceptualized from its basic components, from its applications, the careers that one can take up when actually studying an atom and its characteristics. We spoke about the different characteristics of atoms in terms of their character through the periodic table. We spoke about other socio-economic issues that are concerned around energy and in particular nuclear energy, which we'll expand at some point. We spoke about the different sort of scientists who are actually in the field of science, especially in the women who contributed to the science, especially the radioactivity. So I think we kind of gave I hope we've given you sort of an overall feel in an easily understandable way about what atoms are. And I think in the next episode we'll showcase the booklets that we come up with in terms of atoms, about atoms and in nuclear. So we'll actually be selling these books as well, booklets if I can. Also the match, we'll also be selling the match. We'll give you the numbers on the screen. Please support us. Please watch and at least we're not sure if you want to subscribe. Please let's do that. But we're only starting up, so we hope that we'll get your support. We'll hope that we'll capture the minds of those who are interested, from kids to grown-ups, so that we understand this energy space. Yes, we will be mainly showcasing nuclear, but we'll also talk about other energy sources. We'll also talk about energy issues in the country. I'm sure you can see in my t-shirt here, we saying Maboneng equals nuclear power minus load shedding. It's one of the key, I think, challenges that we're having in the country and in some countries also globally. So I think we're in a good space to talk about nuclear in this platform and energy as a whole. And yeah, watch out, man. I think it's gonna be great. Any last words, guys? Please, let's do that.
Before they go on, I think I can guarantee that someone out there is sitting in the dark right now.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, definitely.
So
a stage something.
stage, whatever stage. But we are in the dark.
Yeah.
That is the fact. So I think we do have to talk about the energy crisis in the country.
True.
It's a very big issue. And also at times a lot of people do not really get to understand, although it's still debated why we are here, why we have such an energy crisis. But there's a lot of moving parts towards either solving it or continuing to some extent, deliberately so. Because the solutions are there. They are there, they exist. It's just the will. So I think at some point, yes, I think even most of our talk should be centered around also discussing the energy crisis, load shedding. Especially if we're discussing energy, the energy that we don't have enough of, which is why you will be sitting in the dark. We don't have enough of the energy. So
Energy availability, I think, is the key issue. Yeah, no, absolutely, it's good. I think it's one of the things we are going to debate. We'll call in people where we're going to have conversations with those in the field, with the experts, and yeah, we'll expand and really open up the conversation. I think it's a good one.
Honestly, I don't have much to say other than what I've already said. Is that I'll say to everyone now that was in the book that this field is a very interesting one. It will open you up to a lot of possibilities and a lot of understanding on how literally everything that we do in our daily lives it's based on science. It's shying away from saying it's based on atoms, but
everything is built from these, but science is really the driver of almost every single thing in our everyday life. So if you're really interested in this field, it will open you up to a lot of possibilities, a lot of careers, a lot of people, a lot of experiences too that one wouldn't really think about. So literally, I just say, if you want to do it, just go for it. It's a really good opportunity for yourself to just explore and put yourself out there to see things from a better angle. Okay.
That's the key word. Just do it. You know. So yeah, no, we appreciate it. That we go. Yeah. It is what it is.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, who are you?
So yeah, no, that's a good one thing, and thanks for that. So yeah, Dibs.
Yeah. I don't have much except to say, I look forward to what the platform can actually bring and contribute, out there in terms of a source of information for all who are interested, and for us to start talking about the uncomfortable conversations that Buddha has already actually brought up, because there are many facets to the understanding of why things are the way they are. And join us on a journey of discovery as well as and see what this podcast can actually transform into.
Yeah.
Can actually be a movement where the country can actually be the better for it because of bringing the information out there into the public. And it's a necessary conversation that we must have. Guys, stay curious. Stay focused on your journey of discovery, and just go out there, be a seeker of knowledge, and try to understand how things work.
I like that there's a lot, because if you look at how Steve Jobs actually drove the technology field, he made it a platform. So from iPhone to something of a design, of an artistic, and I think that's the goal, and hopefully it's what we'll achieve as well. And I think from what you were saying there, I think I can sort of link it to what you were saying, that you must stay sort of foolish or something like that. Yeah, just go in and explore. And the world is boundless.
I mean, you made a very classical example of the Buddha was talking about the collision of particles.
Sure.
It's a beautiful chaos.
It is.
The result that comes out of it can be very beautiful.
Yeah.
And then, the more we learn about it, the more we understand, or the less we understand, and the more we have to discover.
Yeah.
So, but it's a beautiful journey, and I look forward to it.
Well, thanks a lot, guys, and we out now, and thank you so much for the support. We are HelaCast. Away.
Say energy ain't gonna be bad. You're doing the most. Minerals for the nation. I'm not sure what I have. Ain't gonna be fair. I be doing this, don't play me. Sacrificing for the money game. Someone game energy. Vulnerable to the technology. Society. Public. I want you to learn that this energy ain't gonna be fair. Gonna be fair. Gonna be killing your energy. HelaCast, HelaCast, yeah.